This is on the role of professor in society, in modern society, both what it is and what it should be. And I'm going to start first with I was standing in front of MBAs at the University of Chicago. I had not applied to teach there. The dean had called me and asked me to teach because they had read a manuscript of a book and they thought it was a work of genius. They said they wanted me to teach there. So here I am in front of MBAs, and I realized I was supposed to educate them. It said, everybody said, I said, but I had no working definition of what educating is. I didn't know. I didn't have a clue. And so I bought 200 books on education and educatedness, most of them by philosophers, some of them a little practical. And they were horrible and very biased. And basically every single person, John Dewey said, educated people are like me, very American and pragmatic. And Hans Georg Gadamer said, educated people are like me, very philosophical and German. And everybody, Marx said that educated people are like me, they see the evil hidden by the structures of society. So everybody said educatedness is just like me. And so 200 idiots saying that education should make everybody in the world more like me looked like some sort of collective mental illness and not anything I wanted to trust. So I said every single philosopher of education is a moron and mentally ill, and I'm not going to generate a generation of students copying those guys. So I needed something a lot more valid than that, and a lot more humane than that, and a lot less arrogant and narcissistic and mentally ill than that. And so I said, I'm going to have to find out who the best people in the world are and ask them how they got to be best, and see whether some of them got to be best by being very educated acting. And so I created a study of excellence, redoing Plato, and then found that one of the 54 ways that people rise to the top of any of 63 different professions in my data set was a group of them rose to the top by being highly educated acting. And so then we identified 150 people who rose to the top of their field by being highly educated acting, and then we asked them how and why they rose that way and not some other way. Why didn't you rise to the top by being more creative, or by being more effective, or by deploying management functions well, or handling error well, or handling complexity well, or any of the other 54 routes to the top that we found. And why? By being more highly educated. And we asked these people themselves. And then we said, well, what is your capability that keeps you at the top of this field? What does it consist of in terms of detailed capability, parts? You're good at what that other people are not good at? And we got definitions of creativity, 60 models, steps of creativity, 64, 64 basic functions of managing and leadership, 64 functions of all arts, and we got 64 capabilities of highly educated people. Now, so I did the work, both empirical work and reading books work on reviewing literature to determine what educatedness is for me. And so educatedness is those 64 functions. And in class, I have to find a way in a 90-minute class or a 3-hour class to enact the dynamics of those 64 functions of educating people. And there are 64 of them, and I've only got 14 classes in a semester or 12 in a quarter. So it's always like everything in life, it's a matter of compression. Not enough time and lots to do. And so the art is getting as much done in the small amount of time allotted with the variable material that I am. I'm in a good mood some days, bad mood other days, tired some days, not tired other days, inspired some days, uninspired other days, stomach hurts some days, stomach doesn't hurt other days. And the students, who are very similar, have a good day today, not a good day, should be in this college, should not be in this college, like the field they're in, don't like the field they're in, had a good girlfriend, had a bad girlfriend, all that kind of stuff. So, you know, we have these variable human inputs on my side, the supply side, and the student side is the customer side. And we interact for 90 minutes or 3 hours and get as much educatedness to occur into that amount of time as possible. Now, this is an enormous subject, so I don't have time to go into all 64 capabilities or my particular strategies in classrooms for doing them all. But there are a couple of big dimensions of this that are so dominant and so different in my teaching than in other people's teaching that I want to make it clear. If you go, I teach all my subjects the way designers teach design subjects. I didn't know that because I didn't really seriously look at design as a profession until I had been doing design for 20 years on my own. And then later in life, I went back and looked at formally what people know about it and who are the people who teach it and do it best. And then I got hooked up with this Chinese university, all the faculty of which are the world's best designers. So I started talking in Shanghai rather inebriatedly with Heller, the head of BMW design, and Esslinger, the founder of Frog Design, and Keller, the founder of Video, and all these people. And anyway, so I ended up discovering that I teach all of my classes the way the best designers interact with people. And I didn't realize that before because I didn't know these people before. So it was very validating in a sense and a little confusing because why was I teaching everything the way studio courses are taught in the world's top design schools? And then I read Roger Martin at Toronto. And he wrote this thing that management's really a design science and it's not at all natural science, and it shouldn't be based on economics because it's a design science. And the economic basis of management leaves out precisely the and devalues the employees as a reason for a business, or the product as a reason for the business, or the service to a customer as a reason for a business, and just prioritizes everything for investors making money, as if the whole planet should be a bunch of rich guys making money and doing nothing other than making money all day, which is pretty much what Wall Street tries to be. And so you ended up with the entire elite of the United States of America, from MIT and Harvard, at least the dumb East Coast guys, literally living that way, running their lives to make money and contributing nothing to the world other than boats and cocaine addictions for their kids. And you know, it's a very, very ugly, sick group of people that you really don't want to have lunch with. And you certainly don't want to have lunch with their kids and watch them go in and out of drug rehab their entire lives due to their mommy and daddy chasing money all the time. And they're hanging around other kids with too much money that have nothing better to do with it than buy cocaine. And so it's a real dead end. But you know, the people going in are ugly people. They go into business schools not to make products, serve the world, or help anybody, but to help themselves. And what they call helping themselves is getting lots of money for themselves. That's why they're in business, to make money for themselves. And it's clear every second. That's why managers at Xerox, when we had MBAs forced on us by headquarters, invented fake projects to throw them at for the 2 years it took them to find out that the projects were fake. They have so little ability to respect the rest of the world that you can give them a fake project, and if you kiss their male hormones and tweak their right little male pride buttons the right way once every 3 months, as long as you make them feel important, they are incapable brain-wise of finding out that the entire project is fake. And finally, you know, 18 months into it, they begin to wake up and realize that this is just for the sake of keeping them from ruining important parts of the business. And by that time, I've been promoted, and I don't have to deal with them. And some manager who reports to me has to invent a fake project for the MBA. But we have it every year. We have a discussion on my staff. One of my direct reports has got to headquarters force 3 MBAs on him. How does he keep them from ruining the business? Because, you know, they're harmful people. They're like a disease. They're just in it to make money for themselves. The idea of compassion, the idea of contributing to the world, the idea of making a sacrifice of their own benefit for the sake of helping a Cambodian lady with 3 kids never enters the picture for them. And then Harvard has trained them to think that way, that it's professional to favor investors. And the fact that that's a gross distortion of how business was taught 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, how it's taught in the rest of the world, how it was actually done, the fact that the 100 years of business schools inserting themselves into business has hurt American productivity almost more than anything else. The fact that the best things that American business learned, they learned from the Japanese, they learned from Silicon Valley, they didn't learn from any business school. The fact that business schools were 30, 40 years late learning and teaching Silicon Valley. The fact that building a business became a subject at Harvard's business school for the first time in 100 years in the 1990s, 30 years after Silicon Valley amazed the world. Shows you how deeply sick the faculty have always been, and how incompetent in business they've always been. And then to insert themselves into businesses has been ruining America for the last 40 years. So, now, it's unpolite to say things like that. You know, it's professional in a business to unemotionally discuss evil things and good things in the same flow in a professional manner. And so much of business depends on doing that. I mean, you have a business meeting between the business VP and the ad company, And the survey data shows that our financial company, Prudential, reputation is known as utterly impervious to customer remarks, arrogant and out of touch, and manipulative. That's what the survey data showed about Prudential, I think, 10, 15 years ago. It was published in Fortune magazine. And so we need an ad with little kids talking about their feelings and their dreams to show that we listen to little kids. Right. In other words, the ad is always 180 degrees opposite of the reality. You just listen to the ad, reverse the message 180 degrees, and the real message of the ad is, we are out of touch, we're still arrogant, we still don't give a shit about you, the customer, and we're going to rip you off like every other investment bank of Wall Street does. And so, you know, that's the ad business. That's the ad business. And, you know, they get paid to be creative in lying. And once in a real rare while, and my friends in the business tell me it's about once every 6-8 years, they get to tell the truth with creativity as opposed to lies. And it's often new technical upstarts on Silicon Valley. But as they get bigger and government regulation for privacy issues and stuff comes up, the Silicon Valley guys start doing the same thing that the older Wall Street East Coast guys do. Now, let's look at another thing here, the economics of being on a faculty. Let's say I'm on a faculty and the chairman of Motorola appoints his incompetent son to take over as head of the company after him. And the incompetent son presides over 8 years of immense losses, including sloughing, getting out of 2 major kinds of business because they get so ruined they become unmanageable anymore. And you can't mention this in the business school class in any negative context or style because they want money from Motorola, and they want Motorola to hire their grads. And they won't do that if you hurt the little male egos, little monkeys at the top, if you don't praise them all the time. And, you know, you have these, the second thing is this New Yorker comment that was so interesting, that people like Weil at Citibank who steal billions and trillions of dollars from government welfare for their bank to keep it in existence after it makes really bad decisions and commits suicide financially under his leadership, that people like that used to be ostracized in New York society. And people used to denigrate them as evil bastards who had stolen the savings of millions of old ladies. And but now in our current culture, the business school faculty has so ruined values of people that he goes on speaking circuits and he's a celebrated thief member of society. Thieves, successful thieves who drive huge corporations into the ground are good public speakers in their society. Where did that kind of debased criteria come from? It came from the top universities. So these faculty have done immense harm. We've got Canada. We've got the University of Toronto, Martin, where management is no longer based on economics like the Americans, but it's based on not prioritizing investors as a stakeholder. And then you've got, and not prioritizing efficiency as the only value of the firm. And then you've got McGill quadrupling tuition last year because they are so popular compared to Harvard. Because they, under Mintzberg, they're the anti-Harvard. They create leaders, not thieves. Now, they don't say that as directly as I do. They call it managers, not MBAs. But you know what they mean, leaders, not thieves. So I talk using emotionally valenced language in my classes and on these videos. And many of you will not like that. That's very unprofessional, Mr. Green, telling the truth and talking about harm in emotionally laden language as if it hurts people. No, you should talk about harm professionally as if it doesn't hurt people. 2 million dead Cambodians, well, that's a side effect of our strategy. You see, at Harvard we have strategy. From an 800 GRE math point of view at the Kennedy School, dead Cambodians are one part of the big picture. You've got to look at the whole picture, not just focus on some detail of 2 million dead Cambodians. That's the way that Germany ended up evil between Bismarck and World War II. Their meisterness looked so slick and professional that it bribed them to cross an invisible boundary into meisterly evilness, just like McNamara GRE mapped his way into dead body counting in Vietnam. And I don't do that. I keep that emotional subchannel that keeps things real. And I try to be balanced, but I also try to be real and have compassion.